Good morning. I've been requested to create a video for graphing linear inequalities in two variables, specifically the mastery check. Some students were struggling, so I just want to give you a couple of tips and tricks to kind of make it a little easier. We will be using the material from the mastery check and then kind of doing our own thing too, just to make sure you're understanding the process. So the very first question is, which inequality will have a dashed boundary line with the shaded area above its graph? Really quickly, I just want you to recall when I had something like y is greater than 3, we would start with an open circle, and then we would treat the inequality symbol as an arrow telling which way to go. We're going to use this definition of what greater than and less than is to help support us through this lesson. So keep this in mind because this is kind of the thought process to help us. When we look at our answers here, A, B, C, and D, we want to be able to look at something like this, y greater than x plus 7. The reason why we want something in this format, we want the variable on the left, we want the inequality to be greater because greater means you're going above, so you're going to shade above. And there's also no little inequality symbol below it. This little inequality symbol below that equal means that I take a dashed line and I shade in the dashed line to make it a solid line. Okay, so no little line means that it's going to stay dashed. So this is the format that we want. If you look at part A, it has the little inequality symbol with the line under it, so it's not going to be A at all. It's also not going to be B at all because it has the little inequality. I want a dashed line. Now, when I look at C and D, let's talk about what happens when we move things. If I move this 2x to the other side, it's not going to impact the inequality symbol. Okay, so I don't care too much about the x term, but if I look at the y, I'm eventually going to have to divide by a -9. When I divide by a negative, it flips the inequality symbol. So what that means is when I divide, it's ultimately going to be a less than. Less than means below. If I look here in part D, the 7's positive. When I divide a 7 over to the other side, it's going to remain the same symbol. So it'll be the greater than, and greater means above. So that's why D is going to be my answer in this case. If I look at the next question, which inequality will have a solid boundary line? Okay, solid boundary line. Immediately cross off the ones that do not have the little line under it. So this is what I want, is that or that. So let's keep on reading. These are the ones that would make it solid because the line underneath fills it in. And we want to shade above. So in this case, above means I want a greater than. But then since I want a solid boundary line, that's what I'm looking at. Okay, so I don't want this less than or equal. Now, part A, when I divide by a negative, it's going to flip the inequality symbol. If I look at part B, same thing's happening. The inequality symbol is going to flip the opposite way. So we know that our answer is going to be part B because this is what I want and this is what I have. Next question, which inequality is correctly represented by this graph? All right, we automatically know we're dealing with a dashed line. So anything with a solid line is out. So our answer is either A or D. Now, we need to find what that y-intercept is. If we know what the y-intercept is, life is easy. So why don't we take part A and rewrite it? So I'm going to take the 3x and throw it to the other side. So negative y is greater than negative 3x plus 3 because the 3 right here is positive. Divide everything by a -1. When I do that, the process of dividing by a negative flips my inequality symbol, and this is my solution. Now let's check it. This -3, it needs to be on the tall line, my y-axis here. Here's my -3. And then I need to go up 3 over 1. So I go 1, 2, 3, up 3 over 1. Oh, it's right there. And there's no little equal sign underneath the inequality, so it's a dashed line, so my answer is A. We could take a look at D. So if I want to take and rewrite D, let's go ahead and just, for the sake of argument, examine that as well. and I divide everything by a -3, if I look here, that -2/3 is not my y-intercept, and the slope is 1/3, I don't go up 1/3 in this example. Now, I do want you to pay attention to the inequality symbol. That's less than means that I am shading below it. So if this one was a greater than, we know it would not be the correct answer because we want to shade below, not above. But we can tell that D is absolutely not the correct answer because the slope doesn't match up and the y-intercept doesn't match up. Okay, next one. Which inequality will have a dashed boundary line? So anything that looks like this or that means it's solid, cross those out. A is the only choice we have. Now let's just do a little quick freestyle here, okay? So if I give you y is greater than, I don't know, x minus 2. Let's graph this. -2 starts on the y-axis. And then in front of x, there is a 1/1. So we go up 1/1. The inequality symbol does not have the little line under it. So what that means is you're going to create dashed lines. Now, some of the tutorials will say something about a test point. I hate using test points. I want to show you something first without it, and then I'll show you how to use a test point. But the symbol is a greater than symbol. Greater than means above. So you can just use the English terminology that you know. So that would be my final solution right here. Now let's look at another one. If I give you something like y is less than or equal to 1/3 x plus 4, start with 4 right here. You can go up 1 and over 3. Every line starts off as dashed, and then you fill it in, okay? But we know that's going to be a solid line because the line underneath it. So you don't have to put the dashed line first and like shade that line in like this. You could just do the line. It's okay. Now, this symbol is a less than. Less means fewer, means below. So there you go, it's shaded in. Now, let's talk about the test point. We're going to use 0, 0. Now, here's how you use a test point. If I throw in 0, 0, I have 0 less than or equal to, that's 0 plus 4 is 4. Is 0 less than or equal to 4? That's true. That means if you look at this test point, if it's true, you shade toward the test point. If it's false, you'd shade on the opposite side of the line there because it would be false. Now, I don't like using the test point because, well, you guys know me, I like using the terminology. If you want to use the test point to figure out the direction of shade, you can, with the exception of this last question. If I gave you y is greater than x, we start at 0, 0 because there's a 0 at the end. We go up 1/1. And it's dashed. It is good practice to go all the way through your graph, even if you're not going to use it, especially on these because you want the entire shaded region. But basically, here's what's going to happen. If I throw in 0 as a test point, 0 is greater than 0. That's false because 0 is 0. But if you look at it, this dashed line means I cannot include the line inside of my feasible region inside of any of my solutions. The line already takes care of that for us. It doesn't tell us now because 0, 0 is on the line if you're going to shade above or below. So that doesn't help you. So you have two choices. Choice 1 is to use another test point. So you can pick any point you want. Let's say you can pick that point right there, or you can pick a point here to figure out which way you're going to shade. Or you can look at your terminology. This is a greater than. So you want to go greater than the line that's going to be above, you just shade this way. Now, for sake of argument, let's just use that as my test point. That's the ordered pair 1, 3. So is 3 greater than 1? Absolutely. That means I shade in that direction. if you use this test point, and you can pick any point you want, it does not matter. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the ordered pair 4, 0. Is 0 greater than 4? Absolutely not. So that means that you are not allowed to shade on that side. You have to go the other direction. And that's it. And I hope that cleared up any confusion that you guys had over this lesson. And I hope to see you guys soon.